Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Budgeting Basics with Calxa. My name's Simon. I'll be hosting your session today, and a big welcome to those people who are new to Calxa and those people that joined me yesterday for Reporting Basics. Today, Budgeting Basics, we'll be having a look at how to present budgets in Calxa and how to use the various functions to create the budgets that you require. Just a reminder, today's webinar is one of a series of 4 that run on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The other 3 sessions, of course, are reporting basics, cash flow basics, and dashboard basics. And together they will provide you with a very strong foundation in how to get started in Calxa. Now, just a reminder, these webinars are interactive, so please do use the chat box or the Q&A box. I will get to your questions during the session. Let's jump in and have a look at our agenda for today. We are going to have a look at how we manage budgets and the various budget versions, so just an understanding there. We do have a number of different versions of budgets available for you, so you can have different versions available to manage your business appropriately. We're going to have a look at how to create budgets. We can use a tool called a budget factory where we can copy from one location to another location. And we'll also have a look at how we can export and import those budgets, perhaps from Excel. Then we're going to have a look at getting right into the budgets, how we can edit the budgets, do our budgets at business unit level. For those of you in Xero, that would be tracking units, and in MyOb, that will be jobs that you can use in there to do budgets down to that level. We'll have a look at how you can use formulas to create exactly the numbers that you are after and make your life easier there. And we'll also have a look at one of the things you can't do in your accounting system, which of course is to pop in a balance sheet budget and make sure there that you can get your full balance sheet as a forecast, but also you can use that then within your cash flow forecasting. Please join us tomorrow for cash flow forecasting to see how that will work for you. And then we'll have a look at how we can report on those budgets. So let's jump into Calxa and have a look at how we can do our budgeting in Calxa. Okay, we've just opened up Calxa. Of course, you can see there we're looking at a dashboard. These are available, of course, to everybody. There are 4 available to everybody, and you can, of course, customize these. This one has been customized slightly for myself, but today we are doing budgeting. So let's jump over to the top here. We've got budgets and cash flow, and we are particularly going to be looking at the budgeting. So let's jump into budgeting tools and have a look at what we have here. Remember, we're talking about number of versions. So under our budget manager here, I've got a number of versions of budgets in here, and each one of these acts as if it's a budget. Now, the first one up the top here, actuals, that will be linked to your accounting system. So in my case, I'm linked to a Xero file. Those actuals are uneditable. They come directly from your Xero file every day, and you won't change them in there. They look like a budget, but they're your actuals. I have my main budget here, which is I've called forecast. This is the one I use to change what I predict is going to be happening. I change that sometimes monthly, sometimes 3 monthly, and you can see in this that I've gone out quite a few years to get me budgets. Just a little hint there to show you what's going on here with these little icons that look like locks. When they are green, that indicates I've got data in that particular year. So I've gone all the way out to 28. When they're grey, it means there is no data in them. I can do things like lock them and say, please don't change that. I cannot then go back and accidentally change that data. I've left them open because I do change them. The fact that it is my main budget simply means that when I open up a report or when I open up a budget, it defaults to that budget first. It doesn't mean you need to use that. It just means that's the one it's going to default to. So please make your main budget the one that you want it to default to. I've also got an approved budget, and I do suggest to people strongly that you have at least a forecast budget and the one that the board has approved or management has approved. You can see in here, I've actually locked that year for out to 25. That was approved quite some time ago. I'm still working on my 26 budget, so I have that unlocked at the moment. I do have a number of other budgets in here, including one I call blank. And I use that for various different purposes here. So you can have as many of these budgets as you like. And you can see here I've also grouped them here under a couple of different headings. If you want to create a new group that's default budgets or webinar budgets, then I can go up here and create a group. If I want to create a budget that's completely blank, I can jump in here and go create budget, and that would produce one the same here, just like this blank budget. If I like my forecast budget and I want to copy that so I can work on it, I can jump in here and copy that budget also. Just jump onto the three dots and you'll be able to go there and copy the budget. Then you can work on it. If you don't like what you've done, you could in fact throw it away if you like that. If I wanted to have my approved budget as my main budget, then you can come down here and go, please select that as main budget. If I have a budget that I want to get rid of, please be careful when you do this, but when you do select delete budget, you'll see up here, it requires you to type in capital letters, the word delete. So it's going to make sure that you do absolutely want to delete that budget before you go ahead and do that. Remember, once you've done it, of course, it's gone and you won't get that back. So that's about your various budget versions and what you can do with those versions of budgets in there. Let's have a look at how you can then create a budget from scratch. So one, I've got this blank budget. I could go in there and completely just pop the numbers in if I wanted to do that, and we'll have a look at how you can do that. But I've also got this neat tool called a budget factory. Now, what a budget factory does is it's going to copy from one of these budgets, including my actuals, to another one, from 1 year to another year, or 1 year to the same year, whatever it is that you want to do. So for instance, if I wanted to copy my actuals from this year and I wanted to pop it down in one of my other budgets to work on, then I could use the budget factory to do that. Let's go ahead and do that, something along those lines. So I'm going to get started. I want to create a budget. I'm only going to copy it for one just to make it quicker. And I'm going to copy. I'm not going to copy from my actuals. I could, but I'm going to copy from, in this case, my forecast budget for 24-25, and I want to pop that into my blank budget. So let's get down to there, the blank budget there, and I want to pop that into 25-26. That's the one I want to be working on. So I want to copy what my forecast was for my current year. That gave me a good indication of what was going on, and I want to copy it to next year. When I do that, first up, it's going to tell me this is what the numbers are in terms of income and expenses and what the profit would be. And if I want to go through here and change some of those numbers, I can go through and say, please increase that by 5% and please increase my expenses by 20%, and it'll give me a new number down here. When I go ahead and do that, it's telling me I'm copying my forecast from that year. I'm going to put it in my blank budget from here. I'm not overriding any data. This is the business unit or units that I'm going to do. When I go ahead and do that, it's going to copy that information. It's going to increase it by those percentages and pop it into that blank budget. So when I go back to my budget tools, then I can see under my blank budget, I now have that budget. What it did do, of course, then it just opened up that budget. So if I wanted to work on it straight away, I'd be able to see it there. But you can see here, I've got a green icon down here. That means I've got data in here. So I've in fact copied this budget here. I've increased it by percentages, and I've popped it down into here for me to be able to work on. If I'm happy with that, for instance, I might then go back and copy that back after I've made adjustments into my approved budget, for example, once I've presented that around the place. Okay, so great use of this budget factory. Just notice down here, we can also export and import. So if I go to export, what this is going to do is it's going to give me the format one, it's going to give me all the information that I've already got there, but it's going to give me the format to be able to import that budget. So let's go ahead and do something here. I'm using my Melbourne organization. I'm looking at my forecast data source, but I could have taken my actuals. I'm going to take my forecast. I want it by project, and I'm going to select all of my projects. So just bulk action, select all. Here's all of my projects. I'm going to select all of my accounts. I'm going to pop it into Excel. I do want it monthly, and I want to copy my 24-25 year. I'm going to take my comments and I'm going to do empty rows as well. So when I export that, I'm going to get an Excel format that's available for me to then go and import. It's just opening this on another screen. I'm going to copy that across over to here so we can all see that now. So there we are. You can see that this particular format then I can use to import. And you can see here what it's done is it's given me all the numbers from the 24-25 year. It's got my business unit name here, and so on. So it's brought in all of my business units there, and you can go through here and make changes to these numbers anywhere that you like, and then go and re-import those numbers if you like. So if I want to make changes, for instance, here, it's just an Excel sheet, so we can pop those numbers in and then resave it, and we'll be able to re-import it. If you like those numbers, but you then want to import that into the next year, for instance, this header can be changed, of course, and you can make that 25, and that's going to import that column, of course, into July 25 when we go and re-import it. So this is a great tool for being able to work on your budgets and work through that process there. A lot of people have imported just sections of their budget this way because, for instance, their sales might be very, very hard to calculate. So they do that in Excel, then get it linked up and imported into this format here, and then they can use that to import back into Calxa. When you do want to import, it's as simple as clicking on this button here, telling it what type of budget, telling it which budget version that you want to pop it into, and you simply browse, find the file that you happen to be looking for, which in this case would have been that one there, and then go and import that, and it'll import it into all the right places. It will check that your data is correct before you go and do that, but if you are using that format, it will work fine for you. Okay, so that's about our budget manager, the various versions of budgets that you can have. And in fact, we do recommend that you have at least a couple of budgets around the place. How you can use the budget factory to copy from one place to another place, or in fact, export a format or import the budgets through that process as well. So that's about how you can create and use those budgets. Let's get in and have a look at our budgets now. So we just popped over here, over to budgets and actuals. Up the top here, you can see I've got my organization. It's automatically defaulted, of course, to my main budget, which happens to be my forecast. You can see here, I could drop down here. I can look at my actuals and all my other budgets. If I pop over to actuals, you'll see here it says it's read only because it's linked to my accounting system. So I can't go in and actually make changes to this information here. And just moving across, you can see here, I'm actually looking at the year 25, 26. I can go and change that to anything I like. And you'll see these little scroll buttons here. I can move backwards and forward through those years. So if I get my 24, 25 year here, you'll see I've got my actual information is actually showing up here as well. I am going to be working on 25, 26 at this stage here. So let's have a look at that. Again, I can look at any of my budgets if I want to, but in this case, I want to be working on my forecast budget. Working down the side here, I'm looking at the Melbourne organisation. If you look here, it says this organisation is being consolidated, which means I do have budgets in here by business unit. And please notice here, this says on the forecast, you see the 3 green icons here. It does mean I do have data in those 3 years and it is unlocked. I do have the green dot next to all of these business units down here. So this indicates that I do have data in on these particular business units. Being consolidated is what I've told Calxa to do is add up all of my projects and give me more organization. So I'm doing my budgets by individual business unit, and it's adding it up to give me my consolidated report for my organization. Let's have a look at the budget for one of my business units in here so we can actually work on those and see what it's doing. I'm going to hide the menu so we can see this whole year one go here. And I'm looking at my 25-26 year budget here. Just some of these icons down the side here. If I look at those, that will maximize it out so I can see it at full screen. If you like to see it larger, this button here will undo the last thing that you did. This one will redo that. And this button here is for export. So if you remember, we looked at the budget tools and we had an export button. This one will do exactly the same thing and export this particular budget. So this would be just for that particular business unit. And of course, we've got a print button. That won't send it straight to the printer. That will actually send it to the report screen to be able to report on that budget. We'll use that later on when we're finished doing what we're doing here. So we can see here, we've got all of our numbers here. I can come in here and I can change these numbers here by simply typing in it, if I choose to do that. Okay, and there I am. I've changed a couple of numbers in there. Neat thing you can do in here, if you have nothing in here and I type in a number, 12,000 into the total column, this will then spread that evenly across here. But I do want to show you this thing here. If you notice here, I've got a particular pattern in here. Now that pattern is built up because that pattern is related to the things that are occurring in my business. So I like to keep that pattern. However, this number is not correct anymore. That number should be 500,000. So when I pop that in, you'll see what's happened here is all the months have changed. However, they've kept the pattern exactly the same. So that pattern throughout there is exactly the same, and that number has simply changed in total. If I didn't like that, I can, of course, press the reverse button, and that will take out the changes that I made there. If I want to delete what's in a whole row, I can simply press 0, and of course, that's going to delete what's there. You can see down the side here, I've got a particular format that I'm looking at here. This is my account tree format, which is, in this case, my original tree. If I go across here, I can press on these 3 dots here. You can see here, I've got some options in here. So I can show and hide the account number. So if I don't like to see this 41010 against the account name, I can turn that off. I can also turn off empty rows if I want to do that. And I can choose which account tree to use. And I'm going to use a tree that I use in my reporting basics for those of you who did see me yesterday. And now I've got a slightly different format down here. You can see I've got a couple of headers and so forth down here. And I'm going to use this wages and area to just show how we can use some formulas. Just to show you here, yes, we can enter straight into each cell. We can enter into the total here and it will spread it out evenly. But I've got some little icons here that I'm going to show you here. That's a formula. So we can pop formulas into these cells to create the information that we're after. And a couple of ways of doing that. I'm going to create a formula down here for superannuation as an example. If I click on the box, and I click on the 3 dots, I've got some options in here. We're going to have a look at the other 2 options shortly. But if I click on formula, it opens up a box here to say you can put a formula in here. To start with, it says, which data source are you using? Well, I'm using my forecast budget. That's the one I happen to be in, but I could have used another one. I could have gone to my actuals and actually pulled in some data there. Which project am I going to use? So I can use my project. In this case, it's automatically selected the same project I'm in, but I could have picked a different project again and linked it up that way. And now I have some choices about how I can create a formula. In this case, I am going to pick an account, but I can also pick metrics, which are some non-financial pieces of information. And I could pick numbers as well. So please read some help articles on metrics if you don't know about them yet, where we can, in fact, add some non-financial information in there. We will have a look at some of the metrics I've got in here. But if I scroll down, I want to have a look at my wages because I'm going to create a formula for my salaries and wages superannuation. So here we go. I'm selecting the salaries and wages account. That's the one I've selected, and I'm going to do a calculation on it because I'm going to multiply that by, in this case, a number, and the number is 11.5%. 0.115, and I'll pop that in. I've now got a formula and I can apply that formula. But I just want you to look up here because at the moment it's a one-off formula. I want that to be live. So in other words, when I change this underlying data, I want the number that I'm creating here to change along with it. So I don't want to do this once. I want to do this whenever salaries and wages changes. One other field to look in here. In this case, I want it to come from July because of the calculation I'm doing. But equally, I could have picked something from, say, 12 months ago, so from July 24, if I wanted to do that. So if you want to refer, for instance, to a sale from last year and add a percentage to it, then you could use this formula to do that as well. I'm going to show you where I've done that elsewhere. When I apply that formula, here it is here. I've got it in that one particular cell there. Now, if I wanted across the rest, I could, of course, do that in that one particular cell at a time if I wanted to do that, or I can go down here and copy it to the future. So when I've done that, it's copied that formula all the way across right throughout this period that I've chosen up there. So if you're doing a formula and you want it for the next 10 years, please select 10 years up here, and that will copy that all the way out. Now, obviously, at the moment, this formula refers to this line up here, which hasn't got any data in yet. So I could comfortably just go through here and type a number in here. And if I do that, then you'll see it has automatically inserted. Let me get away from there. It's automatically inserted the number in there, done the calculation at 11.5%. But I'm going to do a different sort of formula, and I'm going to do it for the whole row for salaries and wages at the same time. So when I want the whole row, I can select that row by simply clicking on the name of the account. And I'm going to do a new formula for the entire row. So I can come up to here. I've got formula up here. And at the moment, it's saying, please select this particular forecast budget, this and this same project. But in this case, I'm going to do a different sort of formula. I'm going to do a repeating formula. And in this case, my wages bill is $10,000 a week. So at the moment here, I'm going to change this over from day to week. And so for every week on a Tuesday, I happen to be paying an amount of $10,000. So when I apply that formula across there, it said, you've got 5 Tuesdays in July, so it's $50,000. You've got 4 Tuesdays in August, so it's $40,000. And you notice here it's automatically updated my superannuation to match as well. See the little icon up here is slightly different. It says, yes, you did have a formula in here. You've done that by calculation, but this is a one-off formula that you've popped in here. So great use of the formulas there, and you can set that up so that when you automatically go and change, in this case, the salaries and wages, it will change what else you do in superannuation. Let's have a look at some of the other formulas. This one here is what I showed you previously, is I've actually gone through to my actuals for the same business unit, and I've gone to the same account that I'm using here, and I've added 10% to it, but I've gone back 12 months. So I've simply gone to a different budget altogether, gone back 12 months and added 10% to that particular amount. So you can do some neat things there with your formulas around the place. Please have a think about that when you're doing your budget. You'll see here, this particular cell here has a line underneath it. That means it's got a comment. So if I look at that, you'll see when I hover over it, it shows me the comment that I've got in there. If I want to pop a comment in here, I can simply go insert a comment. And if I save that, it's popped a comment in there as well. And you can see there it is there. Just know that those comments are exportable, so you can pop them into the Excel sheet that you have. In Excel, of course, you can put comments. When you do import it, it will import those comments. If you are importing from Excel, of course, the one thing it won't do is import formulas. So feel free to use formulas in your Excel sheet because when you do import it, it will just import the raw numbers for you and not those formulas. So you can be safe with your formulas that it's not going to make it inappropriate within this budget sheet that you're seeing here. Okay, so that's how you create a budget in here. And now that you've got a budget, you'll be wanting to go and report that. I can simply drop over to reports and select a report to be able to report this particular budget, or I can click on print here, and this is going to drop straight over. It's opening up a brand new screen for me with the report that I want to be using to report this particular budget. Now, what it's done is it's picked the year that I've got up here, which is July 25, and it's reporting it forward for that particular period. Now, I'm going to drop back to the builder because in my templates, it happens to be that report. That's a nice, easy one to be using. So when I select that report, I've got some options here. In this case, I can report, obviously, that organization. I can pick a business unit. If I select all business units, so all active projects, for instance, here, I'm going to get a slightly different report. This is the budget version I want to use. That's the account tree that I want to use to report that. And I can pick, just to make life a little easier for you, I can pick next financial year. So let's start next financial year. Then if I move that into a bundle, for instance, because I'm working on my budgets, I can save that in under a bundle for, say, next financial year's budget. So when I want to make changes and go back and see those reports, I can easily get back to it and see that as well. I could use my dynamic configuration, of course, to change that. And as you've seen through reporting basics, you can make some other changes to that. When I refresh this report, here we go. And here's my report showing my budget that I'd put in for all active projects in this case. And you'll see here it is, all active projects. But when I scroll through that, then what I'm also going to see is the budget that I have in for the first business unit, the budget in for the second business unit, and so on. Here's the one that we were working on. You'll see here that I've got various bits of information in here. Now, there is one other thing that I did miss showing you within the budgets, which was the balance sheet, of course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the empty rows, and I can do that by pressing E, or I could have gone up to the three dots up here. Let's scroll down, because when I get down past the P&L section, you'll see here I've also got the balance sheet in here, and I've put in this case, I'm going to increase my inventory in August. I'm going to decrease my inventory through November and December and so on. So I pop that in there to say, hey, this is going to affect my cash flow if I'm increasing or decreasing my inventory through a period of time, because it will obviously get affected by purchases. In this case, I've got a motor vehicle I'm going to purchase. So the boss wants a new BMW. It's going to cost, well, only 100,000. He's going cheap this time. So here we go. He's purchasing a new vehicle for 100,000 in November. That's where we're budgeting it. And I'm also taking out a loan here for that particular vehicle. And here's my repayments of that particular loan. Down here, I do have grants in advance for this particular organization. So I'm in fact showing up that grant in advance. If you do have a look at cash flow basics tomorrow, you will see how this might be used. I'm just going to get rid of some of the empty rows again, because I want to show you that balance sheet with all the accounts in it. Here we go. You'll see there's some accounts in here, like depreciation in here, where they've got a little mark next to it and you can't budget for it. That's because they're set in the cash flow settings and you don't make any changes. Accounts receivable is one of those where Calxa will do the calculation for you in your budget to calculate out what that balance is. If I jump back to reports, of course, I can get, here's a balance sheet budget as well. So I could go and get that balance sheet budget, start next financial year, and it'll give me the budget for for next, or I'm actually in the wrong month, aren't I? So I wanted, if I'm in June, then it's going to give me my 25, 26 budget, and it'll give me my balance sheet. I will have done the calculations for uh, my cash at bank and my accounts receivable and so forth. So that's how you can use budgeting to get you both your forecasts there. Okay, let's just quickly review that again. We went to our budget tools. We had a look at our various versions of budgets that we can have available to us and what you can do to lock them, set them up, copy them from another section using the budget factory, export and import those budgets if you choose to use Excel to do some budgeting in. When we're in the budgets, how we can set up our formulas to help us pop in some information or simply type on that into individual cells, or in fact total rows, and create some formulas in there to help us do that. And then go ahead into our reporting area and use a couple of different reports here to get our budgets. So very quickly, I have gone slightly over time for you. Very sorry about that. We will review very quickly and make sure that we have covered everything off. We looked at how we can manage our budgets through our versions. We use the budget factory. We can export, import, use a budget by business unit, use our formulas, and can in fact do a budget in our balance sheet, and how we can report on that as well. So that's budgeting basics for today. Please remember, if you haven't done it already, reporting basics are on Tuesday, cash flow basics on Thursday, dashboard basics also on Thursday. If you do need help, please jump over into helpme.calxa.com or helpme@calxa.com. Or if you are in your Calxa screen, please jump down here into this little box, go to chat with us, put your message in here. We will be there available in a short time frame to answer any of your questions, or go back to help and type in an article that you are looking for, budget, and we can find here a whole series of articles about budgets, most of which have short videos in to help you understand what you need to do and give you help. So thank you very much for joining me today for Budgeting Basics. I hope you got something out of that today and you'll enjoy your experience with Calxa. Thanks again, and we'll catch you for another webinar another time. Bye for now.